Welcome, everyone, to another episode of From the Stands, the Cool Pick Show. On today's episode, we are going to be chatting with NHL alumni Matt Stajan on his hockey career, what it was like to play with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Calgary Flames, talk about his experiences, especially a conversation between him and Matt Sundin around shaving their head and the tradition that lied around that. So we will get to all of that and more. But before we bring Matt on to chat, we would, of course, like to thank our sponsors, Mad Creative and Matthew DeCastro for their artwork that you see for the show, as well as Jay Solte Photography for their extra work that they do for the show around the videography. So without further ado, let's get Matt in and start talking some hockey and find out more about this head shaving situation. All right, Matt Stajan, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for taking the time to chat. How are things out in your neck of the woods?
Good. We're living in Calgary, so it's been a good fall so far, and kids are in school. Everybody's feeling their way through these times. So, but can't complain. Everything's going good with our family. So, yeah.
Great. That's the most important thing, especially with COVID and there's so many questions around it. It's as long as family's healthy and good, that's the most important thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just crazy times for everybody, right? It's like a day to day, you're just kind of trying to figure everything out. But all you can do is respect everybody's opinion on things and be as safe as you can be within your household and with your family, make your own decisions, and we'll all get through this. I feel like our country's done a pretty decent job with everything when you look at maybe some other countries. So we're pretty fortunate that way.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's hop into it and talk about some positive sides and about your career within the NHL. The first question I had for you is, when did you know that hockey was the sport that you had a passion for and wanted to make a career out of?
Well, right from when I was a kid, I don't know, maybe from whenever I could even remember. I have pictures of when I was even like 2 or 3 years old holding a mini stick. So it was there right from the start. Obviously, it's always a dream when you're that young. You never know, how your path is going to be in life, let alone in hockey. But it was always a dream of mine. I loved the Maple Leafs growing up, and my whole family is a big Maple Leafs family. And, it just kind of, as you get older, things happen and you keep your dream, but, a lot of things have to kind of go a certain way, and you got to overcome a lot of things. And when you get your opportunity and you get older, you got to try and make it count, and hopefully people take notice. So it's been a long journey when I look back, now that I'm done, but definitely right from when I can ever remember, I had a mini stick in my hand, playing mini sticks in our basement.
Hey man, the way that the Leafs are looking year after year right now, as much as like they get to the playoffs, they need some extra pieces. You can fit right back in there.
Yeah, you know what? I after my contract was up with the Flames, it was kind of I was at the point where you're 30, 34, 35 years old, and that's old now in the NHL. Wasn't when I first came in the league, but it is now, and it was like, maybe I'll have some feelers here to play for league minimum somewhere throughout the league, and you wonder. But when you don't get many phone calls, other than to do PTO and go that route, because that's just kind of the way it's gone. You kind of have to sit back and evaluate whether you take that chance of going on a PTO, or which the percentage is low. Guys who make it off PTOs to have a full-time job for the next year, or what we did, we went to Europe and made it a great experience for our family to finish it off, which I'm really happy that we did it that way and kind of leave on your own terms. So I think that's the loaded question. Whenever anybody's done, mentally you think you can play forever, and you want to play forever, but and looking back, it would have been nice to go back and play even in Toronto for another year, but the options weren't there, and you take what's in front of you and make the best decision for your family. And we had a great adventure in Munich for a year, and we got to experience some cool things as a family.
That's really cool. And we're going to definitely talk about what it's like to play or to like kind of like leave on your own terms and post-career stuff. But I want to talk about your OHL career to start. You got drafted by what was then the Belleville Bulls, which is now the Hamilton Bulldogs, and you played for them for 3 seasons. What was the feeling like for you to be drafted into the OHL and kind of start your career off there?
Yeah, honestly, it was relief because I didn't get drafted my first year of eligibility. My first year of eligibility was the first time they did a Bantam draft in the OHL. So there was 20 rounds, and I didn't get drafted. 20 rounds went by, I didn't get drafted, and that would have been to play an underage year. But they were even drafting for future years. So I went back and played midget with the team I was on, the Mississauga Senators, and that year was huge for me in development because I was one of the top guys on the team. I got to play a lot, and I gained a lot of confidence. I played high school hockey, had fun with that. I went to Iona and Mississauga, and we had a really good high school team when high school hockey was still a respectable thing. And I had a fun year. I gained a ton of confidence, and because scouts were coming to see guys who they had already drafted from the previous year. We had Paulo Koliakovo was our goalie, and he had been drafted by Belleville in the Bantam draft. So I was on their radar come the next year, and myself and my buddy Matt Foy were in the same situation. We both got drafted. He went to Ottawa 67s, and I went to Belleville early in that next draft, but we were a year behind everybody. So we weren't even able to go play an underage year, and that's why I only played 3 years of juniors, because I missed that underage year. So there's a little bit of adversity early in my career looking back. And, but when I did get drafted, draft was actually at Hershey Center in Mississauga. It was relief because I was like, okay, now I have a path that I can follow through with. And I was excited to go to Belleville.
Now, adversity is such a big thing, especially in hockey, because of how small knit the hockey community is, and it's all about getting the right scout to look at you. And in 2002, talking about scouting, the Toronto Maple Leafs ended up selecting you in the second round, 57th overall. But being a local hometown boy from Mississauga, what was the mindset for you like being able to be drafted by the team that you ended up growing up watching ultimately?
Oh, it was a dream come true. The draft was in Toronto that year, so I had a ton of family and friends down at the Air Canada Center, and I didn't think I was on the Leafs radar, to tell you the truth, because you do a lot of you do the testing and a lot of meetings with teams going into the draft, and I was rated 18th in North America. So when you add in the Europeans, I was probably projected to go later in the first round, early second round. And I dropped to late second round to Toronto, but I was really excited about that because it was Toronto. But I never had any meetings with the Leafs, with any of their management team. And I had meetings with like 17 other teams. So, I think it just kind of, Paul Dennis was the Leafs, was one of the guys that were working with the Leaf players and their young guys. And he had known me because I played with his son. So he knew a bit about me and my upbringing, but that was pretty much it. So I had no clue that I was on their radar. And so when they selected me, it was a nice surprise and a great moment for my family and friends to celebrate and take it all in. Because obviously it was a big Leafs family. Everybody still is. So it was an amazing moment for sure.
That's great. And yeah, let alone to get drafted into the NHL is huge. But like you said, to get selected by your hometown team, that's just beyond anything. It's like a priceless moment with anything.
It is, and I saw one of my best buddies, Carlo Koliakovo, go first round the year before. Sorry, so I got to experience that and see him go through it all. And then I experienced it the next year in the second round, in Toronto. So it was exciting, and it's one of the things you look back on, and you just really, you smile at that moment because it's crazy how it all works out, but it's such a classic and surreal moment, really, when I still look back at it.
Now, we had a fan question come in asking about what it was like to play in Toronto. There's obviously with a lot of hockey towns, but more so it seems for Toronto for some reason, there's the large scale market, there's all the media scrums. Like there's so much hype around Toronto, like now, but even more so back in the day. What was it like for you to be able to play in Toronto with that large scale market, with those large media scrums, and kind of getting around that in your first few years?
Yeah, it's difficult for sure. When I look back, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But that's all I knew coming in, really. So I, you just embrace it and you learn how to deal with it. It really helps you grow up fast. You have no other option. If you want to survive, you got to, we always hear the term be a pro. You got to learn to be a pro pretty quickly and pick your spots when you want to have some fun. And it's even more difficult today with social media. And, when the young guys go out, I'm sure it's all over social media if someone snaps a picture of them. So it helped me grow up quickly, and it helped having, my family there, because I could get away from just hockey, because you're hockey centric. When you're in the NHL, everything's hockey, hockey. When you go home, you want it to be a little bit of a break. But in Toronto, that's hard. But I did have my friends and family there to kind of lean on. And I was one of the only younger guys on the team my first year. So I did get to have that for me, where if I'm in a different city, I don't have that outlet to, call one of my buddies up that I grew up with, or one of my cousins, and just have a usual casual lunch. So, I think it's something that helped groom me to be the person I am today, and the player I was, and how I was in the dressing room, and how to deal with things. And then when you're older, how you can help the young guys, because you've seen it at the height that it can be in the NHL. And Calgary is still Canada. It's still, you're pretty much in the center of the city when it comes to sports and celebrity status and all that. But it's not anything close to Toronto. So you really, you can put perspective on things. You don't really know what it's like to play in Toronto until you play there. And I'm glad I got to experience it. And it definitely helped me to do it early in my career, to help me be the person, the player I became, and how I was in the dressing room as I went on.
Yeah, it's definitely, Calgary's a whole other kind of battle. And Calgary's actually, I've sadly only been to three Canadian hockey rinks, with Toronto, obviously, but also Ottawa and Winnipeg. And my goal is to hopefully reach out to go to Calgary and also the other hockey rinks as well, and to be able to see games there.
You only have a few more years because they're building a new rink here. Well, they're supposed to be. So you probably have 4 or 5 more years if you want to see the Saddle Dome. It's the oldest rink in the league now, so it's quite the in game. It's really cool. Obviously, the amenities behind the scenes are outdated, but it's the Saddle Dome, right? It's a cool building. I loved playing there, just as I loved playing at the Air Canada Centre, or Scotiabank Arena, whatever it's called now. So definitely, I would encourage people to see the different arenas and atmospheres throughout the league, but definitely in Canada. Canada is obviously a great place for any hockey fan, and then there's some in the States that are obviously great atmospheres to experience. Like if you can get to Las Vegas, that they do it right there. That's a great environment to watch a game, to play a game, and you're in Vegas. So that'd be another one. Nashville's great, but do the Canadian cities, and then there's a few other spots. Chicago, there's a few other ones that are really high on the list that definitely separate themselves from most of the rinks.
That's incredible. Now, which was one of your favorite rinks to play in?
I always loved, coming back to Toronto as a Calgary Flame. I loved it. Just because I had the connection to the rink, because I played there with the Leafs, so you had that emotion. I always seemed to play well there. But if I had to pick one rink, I always like playing in Edmonton at the Rec, their old rink. The Rec's all, but they got the new one now. Montreal, playing in Montreal as a Leaf was definitely my favorite road rink as a Leaf.
Yeah.
And Ottawa was always nice. Even Buffalo, I liked playing on the road as a Leaf, even though Ottawa and Buffalo were such good teams at that time. So you remember these spots, but I'd say Montreal and Air Canada Centre or Scotiabank Arena are probably 2 of the best. And then in the States, I'd say Chicago, Vegas, and Nashville would be my top 3.
Well, there you go. Once
MSG too. I can't leave out MSG. There's so, you know what, you kind of get, it's funny because people ask that. I'm like, man, there's so many cool things that you experience as a player, and when you're in it, you don't always take it all in. But when you're done, you look back and you're like, man, that was cool to play in that rink. When you watch a game there, you're like, you know, that's special. So it's a hard question to answer, but to give just one, because I'm like, there's so many, and then you think about the moments you've had in them. So it's cool. You know, being an NHL is always the best job in the world. It was my dream, but very fortunate to have all these memories of these great atmospheres and arenas to play in.
Now, talking about those memories and those experiences, looking back ahead of the kind of debut with Toronto, in April of 2003, you made your pro debut with the St. John's Maple Leafs, shortly followed up by the call by Toronto the following night where you scored your first NHL goal with them. How excited were you to be able to not only have that call up to the Leafs, but then to get your first NHL goal and kind of get what some call the pressure out of the way towards that kind of achievement?
Yeah, it was a whirlwind week. Probably, I you know, to backtrack, I played in 3 leagues in less than 6 days or 5 days. So I played in the OHL. On the Tuesday, we lost in Game 7 to St. Mike's at the small St. Mike's Arena there. And 2 days later, I signed my first pro contract and got sent to St. John's to play on a Friday night. And then they didn't make the playoffs. So after that game, I got called up to play for the Leafs the next night, which happened out of the blue. And because obviously I was in St. John's and George Street, and we hear all about the fun you can have there. And the team had played their last game, and I was out there with the team having some fun. And it was a late night on George Street. And I didn't know I was getting called up till I woke up the next day. I had a message on my hotel room because cell phones weren't as relevant as they are now. So I was told I had a flight to Toronto at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock, and with the time change, I didn't land till like 5 in Toronto. And I went straight to the ACC and played the game. So it was a whirlwind of a week, and I didn't have a lot of time to think or prepare for that first game, which probably a good thing because there was less nerves. There's still nerves when you're in there, but it was less time to think everything and overthink things. Because before you know it, I was playing, Hockey Night Canada for the Leafs against Ottawa, and I'm sitting in the dressing room with Matt Sundin and Ed Belfour, and kind of pinching myself. So it was quick, and but it definitely helped, jumpstart my pro career, because I got that first goal right out of the way. And that summer, I had so much confidence when I was training and getting ready for the next year's training camp. I knew I could play at that level, and I had a really good camp the next year to make the team full time.
Talking about Matt Sundin, along with some of the other players that you did end up playing with, one of the questions that we had from a fan that came in was, when you joined the Leafs, there's always those great conversations like, hey, welcome to the team, I'm so-and-so, this is going to be your role, things like that. But one of the known conversations I think is a little bit out there is your conversation with Matt's around some facial hair and some head hair. And apparently the story goes that Matt's said you had to shave your head. That was it. What's the story around shaving your head and
yeah, you know what, it wasn't my first year, Matt, because my first year Matt still had hair. He was hanging on, and then after that lockout year, he came back and he has the shaved head that he's, it's just, that's him now. You just know him with the shaved head. And I was thinning pretty young, so as we were playing, he was like, Stage, I went through this. You're gonna have to shave it eventually. Just do it now. And like anybody who's losing their hair, you try and hang on. And as the story goes, it took me until I came to Calgary before I shaved it fully. So it's pretty. Looking back, I tell the young guys on my team, I'm like, if you have a full head of hair, rock it. But if I think the way to go is to just shave it off. And I wish I did it right away. And actually, my first game with the Leafs, I had a shaved head. That hockey night game, I did an interview. I saw it, and because we had done mohawks in my junior playoffs, so I had a shaved head coming to the ACC. My first game, I'm like, I could go back, I would just rock that right from there. No one would know me any other way, but it's pretty funny because when you see me with hair now, I kind of look funny, but in Toronto, that's how people knew me. And, we that's the thing about kind of Toronto and the dressing room I had there with all these, you have Leaf legends like Matt Sundin, and I got to play with Curtis Joseph at one point, and Darcy Tucker and Brian McCabe, Ty Domi. They're all such good guys, and I got to room with Joe Nieuwendyk my first year, and Gary Roberts was there. So I was a shy young kid coming in, and I learned so much just by watching these guys. Like I would just look around the room, and I would just kind of sit in my stall my first few years and kind of take it all in, like how these guys are you have fun, and I'm the young guy and the rookie, and you're going to get, the rookie treatment that I think comes with it, which is all fun. But I also learned so much, and these guys were so helpful. Even if they don't think it, they were helpful just by me being able to see what needed to be done to be a pro and to play for a long time. And that's part of the reason I was able to adapt and play for as long as I did.
And sorry, before I get to my next question, that experience and those kind of like overviews of each game are definitely very important to be able to excel to the next level of your game. Who was one of your biggest kind of like mentors playing with the Leafs that kind of helped you steer yourself in the right direction?
You take a little bit from everybody. I think I looked up to Matt so much, just watching him and talking. He's such a good guy, such a good captain, such a great leader. But my first year, I did get to room with Joe Nieuwendyk, which nowadays you don't get to room with veteran guys. It's just guys get their own rooms. So I think I was very fortunate for that. And it was just the one season, but we went to the playoffs. We beat Ottawa in the first round, and I was watching Joe, or Newey, I should call him, go battle through a back injury. And so I'd be in the room, and just the things he would do in our hotel room to make sure his back was feeling, ready to go for games, just so he can get by and be a part of, day by day. It really, opened my eyes. Like, if you want to play a long time and be really good, you got to do the extra little things. You got to take care of yourself. And just talking to him was so beneficial. So I'd say him, and then obviously Gary Roberts, was on the team, and we know about his health and training, and him along with Matt Nichol, who was the strength coach at the time. It just laid a foundation for me to work with Matt Nichol and see the importance of not just getting stronger and you're doing your regular training, but how to maintain and stay healthy and play for a long time, because longevity is such a overlooked thing when you're in the moment. And if you can play for a long time and take care of yourself and get that extra few years at the end, that's huge. And they really, Matt Nichol really helped me put a blueprint for what I need to do for myself to play for a long time and put me in the right mindset to have good routine and be a pro at a young age.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about how long your career was in a short little bit. But in January of 2010, I want to talk about your trade to Calgary from the Leafs. Everyone goes through being traded differently. What was it like for you to go from, again, a team you grew up watching and playing on to ultimately having to travel across the map to continue your career with the Flames?
Yeah, it was difficult. I was, looking back, it was, it worked out, and we live in Calgary now. Like I'm so happy the way everything worked out, but it was a difficult day, difficult, like half year, even longer. I loved being a Leaf. I was playing well. I was getting great opportunity, and I was one of the leaders in that dressing room. And obviously the team was going through a rebuild. And I was becoming a UFA. So I knew that there's a good chance that I'd be moving on, because they're looking to get draft picks and all that. But it was a tough pill to swallow, because it's all I knew. I grew up a Leaf fan, and for me to say I wasn't upset at all would be a complete lie. I was really upset. But you always take positives from a situation. So the quicker I could turn to, I'm going to Calgary, a great city. We Mika Kiprasov in net, Jerome McGinley. You look at the positives and you try and, just focus on that. There's no point in dwelling on what happened. You look to your future and what it's going to bring. And then I loved my time in Calgary. So it was difficult, and it took me a lot of time in Calgary to find my way, because I always was a two-way player, and I think in Toronto people knew that. And I was playing more of an offensive role when we lost Matt Sundin and we were going through that rebuild. I was getting more power play time, and I was able to put up over 50 points a few seasons. So, the perception when I came to Calgary was, well, this guy's going to be like the top center and the offensive guy, but that was never my game. And so it took a little bit of time, to find my role in Calgary, because you're kind of thrown into situations and people want results right away, and it just didn't happen. It took a while for me to find my way here, because it was change, and I found it difficult. Getting traded midseason is difficult enough, but I really did struggle with it for a few years.
Now, the positive side about going to Calgary is, like you said, it was difficult at first, but you ended up getting a boost with your role a couple of years into the club during the 2012-13 season, when Bob Hartley came in as the new coach, and he was kind of looking at guys to boost roles. And how was it for you to know that the organization had a lot of confidence in your ability to kind of further lead them to success after that role?
Yeah, it's was a fresh start for me, because it didn't go well my first year and a half in Calgary. Brent Sutter, he saw me a certain way. A coach can see a player and can look at a player, and one coach could think one thing, another coach could think another thing. And Brent definitely didn't have a lot of confidence in my game, and I was kind of pushed to the side by him for a long stretch. But by the end, I felt like I won Brent Sutter back. I was in his good books late in his last season with us, and I was playing well. And so when he left, I was kind of like, it took me, a while just to find my way, because I was starting to play a lot with him and playing well. So it's kind of a little bit like, if Brent comes back, he sees me differently now. Took 2 years to get there, but it finally got there. But then when Bob came in and the team went in a different direction, it was a fresh start for everybody. And for a guy like me who was, for the most part, struggling with the previous coaches, I took advantage of that. I was given an opportunity, and it was, you got to run with your opportunities. That's one thing, people can say, you got to be lucky. You got to work for your luck. And when there's an opportunity there, you got to make it count. And when the new coach staff came in, I was really leaned on to be a leader in the room, and it kind of paved the way for the rest of my career to be that guy in the Flames organization, that dressing room. And that's just part of my journey. That was my NHL career.
And touching on what you said earlier, it's all about adversity and getting over that adversity and kind of just furthering yourself in that role as best as you can.
Yeah, we're all, every player in the NHL, it's competitive. We're all alpha males. You all want to play as much as you can in certain situations. I think we're all stars in junior. You don't get to the NHL if you're very few guys get to the NHL if they're just average in the OHL or average in NCAA. You got to be a star. So you're coming to the NHL and you got to find a role. Not everybody's going to come to the NHL and be on the power play. And nowadays you get the guys coming out of junior and they're getting more of an opportunity offensively. When I came into the league, it was you started on the fourth line and you worked your way up. And that's why I was able to start so young, because I was very defensive. I was so conscious defensively. I could play on the fourth line at a young age and be effective. But later in my career, it was complete opposite, and I had to embrace my fourth line role. I was told I was playing second, third line for a bunch of years, and we got Sean Monahan and Michael Backlund coming into their own, and we draft Sam Bennett, and it was accepting and being the best you can be at the position you're given, and there's no point of pouting. You just try and make the most of it, and that's just the outlook I always had on it. There's 700 jobs in the NHL, and I had one of them, and there's always people trying to take your job. It never ends, and you got to just try and be the best version of yourself as you can be, and whatever role you're given, make the most of it. And to say there wasn't tough times, there definitely were tough times. There's disagreements you have with coaches, and every player goes through that, but you can never let it affect you as a teammate. You can always be a good teammate. You can always do what's best for the team, and accepting your role and going with it definitely is advice I would give any young hockey player. If we all could score 50 goals a year, we'd all want to, but it doesn't happen that way. Guys are blocking shots to survive in the league. Guys would fight to survive in the league. That's changed a bit now. But you do what you have to do to survive. And I really had an awareness for that throughout my career. And that's a big reason when I look back that I was able to play as long as I could.
Now, quoting the great Sean William Scott from the movie Goon, you'll do what your team needs you to do. If you need to bleed for your team, you'll bleed,
100%. That's 100%. And hey, that's the mindset you got to have, really. When you look at these teams, that are winning and are in the playoffs and going to the Stanley Cup Finals, like you see players, they're playing roles they don't necessarily love playing, but they do it because they want to win. And and we've seen that with even Team Canada. Like, just look at Team Canada. There was a stretch where they would take the two-way guys to play, a checking role on the team. They would bring like Draper and those guys, which makes sense. But what they've been doing recently is they take the most skilled and the stars of the world, and you make your lineup, and then those guys are getting put in a role on that team. You're seeing Joe Thornton or certain guys play different roles than they would on their regular club team. And Canada's been heavy favored. They've been so solid in all the international events since they've done that. So it's no different at the NHL level. I think every guy in junior has a dream of playing NHL and thinks they're going to get there, and it happens for a very minimal amount, let alone kids growing up and playing minor hockey. It's a small number. We all know that. So when you get your opportunity and your role, you got to make sure you accept it and be the best you can be. But at the same time, be always want more. You can't just kind of sit back and fall into it. You still got to want more and push the people ahead of you and go about it that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a couple more questions because I don't want to. I know you're on a bit of a timeline, and I don't want to overkeep you.
Oh, you're good.
You played over 1,000 games in the NHL, and throughout your career, is there one or two games that, I know it may be hard, but is there one or two that stand out as the most memorable ones for you?
Yeah, for sure. The number one game would be a playoff game where we came back. We played Vancouver in the playoffs here in Calgary, and we beat them in Game 6 in our own building. And I scored with 3 minutes left in the game, the winning goal to clinch the series. And we were down 3-0. It was just an unbelievable game. It was Saturday night, playoffs. Red Mile was rocking. Fans were day drinking all day. The rink was so loud. And we came back from 3-0 to win that game, and I was able to score the game-winning goal. So that's definitely the one game that stands out. And I was playing a big role in the team. We were playing against the Deans all playoffs, so it was a very fulfilling moment for me, who had played on pretty much my whole career. The teams I was on were rebuilding, and we missed the playoffs by 1 point. So it was a grind for me just to get to the playoffs. And when we finally got there in Calgary in 2015, I really embraced it and was ready to go. So that was the biggest moment. And then there's other more personal moments that you remember. Your first goal is a big one. And then I had a moment with I scored a penalty shot in Edmonton after me and my wife had lost our firstborn son. 2 games after coming back to play, I got a penalty shot, and my first goal was a penalty shot in Edmonton at the Rexall, which was just a great personal memory and moment for my family and just for life. When you look at life in general and what's most important are your kids, that was definitely the most personal moment of my career.
Yeah, definitely. And my condolences to you and your wife on that, because I remember watching, just hearing about that story, and I was heartbroken as anyone would be in that situation. And yeah, it's definitely, it's so hard to put into words. it's another one of those priceless memories where it's, again, you score that goal, and to the average hockey fan or on any other given night, it's like, yeah, cool, he scored a penalty or a power play or a penalty shot, but or sorry, power play goal, but yeah, for that, it's it's definitely like a highlight personal, like.
Yeah, and you know what, we were pretty open about everything, and just, you know, the hockey world, it just gave us, they embraced us and gave us, they were so supportive, not just our team and our family, but like the whole hockey world was so supportive, and we see that a lot with when things in hockey and people are going through personal situations. It was just like one big hug from everybody, and we definitely felt it as a family, and we're so appreciative of all of that, and it helped us you know, get through some really tough times, you know, and a lot of people do go through that, so we're trying to you know, show that support can be very helpful for anybody.
Yeah, for sure. Now, talking about something that you touched on a little bit earlier in the conversation, being able to leave the game on your own terms, or to be able to step away from it on your own terms. Last year, it was just last year that you announced your retirement from hockey. How was it for you to step away from the game on your own terms and kind of look back at your tremendous and solid 15-year career?
Yeah, it's never easy. I think anybody who goes through their retirement or when they're going to finish, it's tough. That's all you know, right? You play hockey your whole life. You get to the top of the game. You know, you're playing the best league in the world for a long time, and when it ends, it just kind of ends, right? There's no way to prepare for that. So it was just kind of, you know, having a lot of conversations with my wife and my agent, and how we want to proceed with, you know, whether I want to give it one last shot with a PTO, or go to Europe and have a year, or just end it right away. It was just kind of weighing your options. So we decided on going to Europe and finishing off with a year there and experiencing the world, and what a cool experience it is to play in Europe. It's really cool, and I would recommend any player who has the opportunity to experience that for a year of their career, because it is something that, you know, you don't really think of. So I'm happy with the way we did it. You know, when you look at the numbers, guys that go on professional tryouts, it's very tough to make a team, or you got to get lucky with someone else having bad luck with injuries, and you know, to get, you know, maybe an opportunity. And even then, the league's gotten younger and younger. So it's just kind of seeing the situation, and we thought it would be best to go out that way on our own, rather than, my agent put it, I don't want to see your name going across, you know, the ticker on TSN or Sportsnet saying that, you know, you got put out, you got released from a pro tryout, and that's the way your career ends. It's not the way you want a career to end. That's the way it usually ends, because you want to keep playing and you push and push and push. But we thought it would be best to do it differently, and we're really happy with how it ended. And other than, you know, not winning a Stanley Cup, which is the ultimate dream for every hockey player, I can't ask for a better career. So I'm very thankful.
That's great. And yeah, what a career it was. Again, 15 years in the NHL. And obviously through those 15 years, my last question for you is, you've gained so much advice, so much knowledge that from others that you've learned yourself. What kind of words of wisdom or advice would you want to give to the next generation of hockey players?
Well, there's a few things. I think, you know, the simple and most basic answer is, you know, you got to work hard and believe in yourself. You know, there's going to be tough moments, but if you believe in yourself, you can overcome anything. If someone doubts you and you believe in yourself, you'll overcome that. So having the belief, putting in the work, it's not just going to happen. You got to work hard and work for everything you get. And then the last thing would be a good teammate. And that's such simple advice, but just treat people the way you want to be treated, and be a good teammate in the dressing room. Be a team first guy. It goes a long way, not just in hockey, in life. You know, if everybody had that mindset, it would be a lot less stuff going on around in our world than that's going on today. But, you know, in the profession of hockey, if you can do that and just treat people the way you want to be treated, be a good teammate, put the team first, you're gonna last a long time, because when you're going through down times or tough times, you're not playing well, or when you need another opportunity, when people appreciate you and see the character you have, there's more likely a chance that you're going to get another opportunity because people want that personality or want you to succeed. So never lose sight of that. You get people figure out quickly what your motives are. People figure out quickly if you're not in it for the right reasons, if you're selfish. It's easy to see. I've been in a lot of locker rooms. It's easy to pinpoint it after a few days. I think that's simple advice. It's, I answered in a long way, but it's fully loaded. Never lose sight of that, because at the end of the day in life, what do you want people to remember you by? The 10 goals or 30 goal season you had, or do you want your peers to be like, that guy was awesome in the dressing room, that guy was awesome to play with, he gave it his all every night? You want that over just being a skilled guy who is able to score, because at the end of the day, we're all skilled if you're at that level or you're playing at a high level of hockey.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to quote a musician this time, like the great Kurt Cobain said, "I'd rather be loved for who I am than hated for who I'm not."
Exactly. Yeah.
That stands out. So
it's so simple, right? It's so simple, but I feel like people lose sight of that so quickly, right? Especially when you're getting, paid a lot of money and playing the NHL and you're in the spotlight. It's sometimes you just got to step back, put things in perspective, and if you can do that, it really helps everything around you.
For sure. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. And to be on the show. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to hopefully being able to chat with you again in the future.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
No problem. Take care. All right. Special thanks to Matt Stajan for joining us today. And thank you to everyone for tuning in to another edition of From the Stands, the Cool Pick Show. Stay tuned for next week's episode that will come out again next Wednesday. Until then, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.